Hi, I'm Steve Pennaz, Executive Director of the North American Fishing Club. Welcome to this edition of the Complete Angler video series, in which we highlight 3 of bass fishing's deadliest baits and offer tips that will help you catch more fish.
Look in the tackle boxes of top anglers and you'll find an array of artificial lures, spinnerbaits, cranks, topwaters, buzzbaits, jigs, and other baits all have their place. Artificials rule the bass fishing world for a very simple reason. They catch fish. Unlike many other anglers, bass fishermen cannot rely on just one bait or lure and catch fish consistently. They must select baits to meet a wide variety of conditions and fish these baits properly. And that's not always easy, as the skills and equipment needed to effectively fish baits like the jig are not the same as those needed for soft plastics. Today, you're going bass fishing with some of the best bass fishermen in the country. You'll recognize the names. Shaw Grigsby, 8-time national tournament champ and renowned sight fisherman. Bill Dance, North American fisherman columnist and television host. Larry Lazone, renowned Florida guide and tournament angler. Joe Thomas, member of the North American Fishing Club's prestigious Bass Advisory Council. Larry Nixon, leading tournament money winner. Karen Savick, one of only a handful of female bass guides and a successful tournament angler. Jim Moyna, winner of the largest prize in tournament history, the $200,000 grand prize in an FLW tournament held on Minnesota's Lake Minnetonka. These anglers will acquaint you with the most important features of each lure, show you the best technique to fish them, and teach you little-known tricks for making them even more effective. Plus, they offer valuable tackle tips. After all, without the right line, rod, or reel, it's next to impossible to fish some lures properly. This tape covers 3 of the most productive bass baits ever created. We'll start with versatile soft plastics, then move on to spinnerbaits, and finally, jigs. In less than 60 minutes, you'll know more about fishing these great baits than some anglers learn in a lifetime of on-the-water experience. Information that will help you catch more bass. Soft plastic baits deserve a place in every bass hunter's tackle box. They've got the action and feel to trigger bass to strike and come in a dizzying number of shapes, sizes, and colors. You are no doubt familiar with most of them, so we won't spend time on each. Rather, we'll put the baits to good use, starting with the tube, which has made Shaw Grigsby a famous man. Let's join Shaw on a sight fishing expedition in Florida to learn firsthand how and where he fishes tubes.
Come on. Did he get it? Golly, he got it, ran straight in the grass. Come on, you can get it. You can get it. 6-pound. Oh, yes. Come on. He's not a moose, but... Golly. Come on, fish. Give up just a little bit. Yeah. I tell you what, just being able to watch the fish, throwing at them, and trying to catch them is excitement second to none. When you're sight fishing, there's a couple things you definitely need. Good pair of sunglasses so you can see under the water and actually see your fish. And another thing that a lot of people don't even pay attention to is clothing. Don't wear anything bright or make any big movements because they see you. You got to remember they feed by sight in here because clear water, they're looking for their food so they can see you as well as you can see them. One thing about current that's different than a lake is that you have to lead the fish, kind of like duck hunting or something. You got to get out in front of them. Got him. Oh, it's a monster. It is a bass. A monster bass. Look at this. Oh! This one unloaded on it. Oh. Now he fell for the little Guido's G4 pretty easily. And it was just a simple cast, let it fall down, walk it on the bottom real quietly. In other words, you just want to go real slow, and he just sucked it up immediately. I'm gonna let him go. And away, woof. With clear water, you're gonna downsize your baits. Use a smaller bait, like a little tube bait, like this Guido's G4. It's a hollow body, little 4-inch piece of plastic, and the bottom of it's shredded, so it has little legs. Tremendous bait for clear water. Now, another one of the great baits for clear water is like your soft jerk baits or your regular hard jerk baits. And what these are gonna do, they're gonna look like injured minnows or injured shad, and it's gonna get a reaction bite, so you can catch a lot of fish on those. But let's rig this tube bait real quick. I'm gonna use an internal quick clip weight, just a piece of lead with a wire loop on it. Slide it in the back of the weight, just inside the hollow body, and just push it till it gets all the way to the front. Now that wire loop's right at the front. You take your little #1 high performance hook, insert it dead in the head of the bait, and you'll feel it hook that little wire loop. Just bring the hook out about 1/4 inch, slide it all the way around, cover your knot and your eye. So you're gonna do it there. Clip the clip behind the plastic. Now that holds it securely where it can't come off. Just look where the bait's gonna sit normally. Punch the hook straight through, so you're gonna kind of bend the bait, punch it straight through, and you can see it's gonna sit nice and flat and even on the top. What I do at this point is just slide the plastic forward and just insert the tip of it just under the skin. That way, with 6-pound test line, you don't have to pull real hard to get the hook penetrated. Usually a bass will take it in his mouth and crush it and just pop it loose, so you're really fishing an exposed hook, but it won't get hung in all the grass and the weeds and the limbs.
Skip casting with a spinning rod is a great way to effectively present your bait under cover like docks or overhanging trees, and even when fishing open water. Not only does this cast allow you to reach hard-to-reach fish, the cast itself helps trigger strikes. You make the tubes act just like a fleeing bait fish.
What a deal. I mean, this fish just plastered it. It skipped out there, and I hadn't even got the bail closed, and he's already sucked it and gone. You little critter. Whew, boy, is he going. Real aggressive fish. But that's one way to get a bait to it, and that's the joy of these tube baits, is that they represent a shad or a crawfish, and so by skipping them across the water, you're putting it to the fish, so you're getting the bait from your rod tip to that fish very naturally, and it doesn't make them spook out, which is what you're trying to do. In clear water, sometimes those fish will spook real easy if you just plop it in on them. So learn to skip cast.
When sight fishing, concentrate your efforts on high percentage spots. Bass love to hang out in the branches of submerged or fallen trees. Stumps are also bass magnets, as are transition areas between deep and shallow water. Look for areas where bottom color permits good visibility. Points, rocks, and docks are also excellent targets for sight fishermen.
It's about time after going with that. Boy, he just sucked that thing down. You know, fishing light line and little bitty baits doesn't mean you're going to catch a little fish. In fact, the biggest fish I've ever caught in my lifetime was on a little itty bitty Guido's G4 tube bait. It was 13.5. Whew. Now that was a battle. Clear water, watching her come up and eat the bait.
Most of us know how effective a slow presentation with a plastic worm can be, but few of us ever think to fish these baits fast. Here's top guide and touring bass pro Larry Lazone to show you the technique he calls speed worming.
Fish have 3 types of bites. They have a hunger strike, they have a reaction strike, and a protective strike. And this technique plays against all 3 of their instincts. If they're hungry, they'll chase it and bite it. If they're not hungry and protecting the nest, they'll shoot off there and hit it. And if that's not happening, then they'll just react to it. They're a predator and they can't run down to the local store and buy a hoagie sandwich, so they're very opportunistic feeders. And what you're doing with this technique is you're playing all 3 senses. You're looking for any of the 3 strikes. And it's not a situational, it's not just a bed fishing technique. It's not just a winter, fall, spring, or summer technique. It's a technique that, because of the bass's very nature, when they're not biting, when they're not hungry, they bite this well, and it's a great technique for those hard days when it's bluebird sky, clear water, not a breath of air blowing. It's a very subtle way to fish. It doesn't spook the fish. There's no flashing or vibration or rattles down there to make him run away from it. He's curious. Here it comes, there it goes, and he takes a whack at it. So again, you're playing against all three senses that the fish have as far as getting a bite with an artificial bait. For this technique, I feel that it's important to use a long rod. In this case, I'm using a 7-foot rod. It does two things for you. It allows you to make long casts, and in clear water, sometimes that's very important. The other thing is, when you set the hook, you've got a long rod pulling up a lot of slack. So if you would happen to get a bite at the end of the cast, when you set the hook, you pull up line much quicker, and you get a good, solid hook set. And by holding it at 10 o'clock, when you drop slack in, it gives him time to eat it. You don't have to be in a big hurry with these fish. When they bite it and you feel a bump or you see the swirl on your bait and you drop back, throw slack in, reel down, sort out which way you went, get your line tight, and set the hook, and you'll catch him. When you're using this technique, you're really not locked into just one style of worm. I have one that's my favorite, it's worked for me, and that's a ribbon tail. But any soft plastic you can fish this way, whether it be a grub, a lizard, a worm, a paddle tail worm, basically any type of plastic. And the conditions usually will dictate which one you want and the time of year. We'll talk about lizards for a minute. Lizards seem to work better when the water's a little cooler, the fish are just starting to move up, it's a little bulkier bait, and yet has lots of action with the tails and the legs wiggling as you reel it in. And it's a very good bait, especially since it's a little bigger and bulkier. It's a good bait when you get into the little more stained water. It still works in clear water for sure, but if you just stop and try to put 2 and 2 together, you'll always come up with 4. And if visibility is poor, a little bigger bait quite obviously is easier to see. Instead of using a lizard, sometimes we use a grub, and the difference there is that when the water's very clear, like it is here, and shallow, like it is here, then a grub sometimes works better. And the reason for that is it's very shallow. They don't have a lot of water to hide in. It's very clear, and it's very small and very compact. And the nice thing about a grub when you use it is when he bites it, he's got the whole thing in his mouth. So you can be very flexible in the plastic you use, and you just try to match what's going on at the time. Stained water, a big bulky bait; clear water, a small subtle bait. With the conditions like we have now with this high winds, you really are restricted in your options. There are a couple other options you can do. You can throw a spinner bait, you can throw a spoon, swim a worm, of course, and the reason for that is you can keep in contact with your bait. If you try to fish a bait slow, like a worm slow or a jig slow or any of those type of baits, you just can't maintain contact with your bait. You don't know what's happening down there. And with a speed worm, spinner bait, spoon, those are about your only options. You really get restricted under these type of conditions. There's one. Oh, he's coming up. He come right to the top. He's got a big wad on him too. Boy, they get down in that grass and they know what to do, I'll tell you. I'm trying to get back down in the grass. Come here, baby. Another decent fish. Pretty shape. That's another fish swimming a worm. I hope today this has helped you a little. It gives you another tool to go catch them, especially on a day like today. A lot of people didn't even venture out of their house, and here we are out here at Lake Okeechobee swimming a worm, catching fish like this.
For a more conventional approach to fishing worms, let's join Bill Dance on his favorite pond.
You know, all the baits that I fish, I would say that the plastic worm probably contributes to at least 50% of the fish that I catch in a year's time. And what makes a plastic worm such a high percentage bait, it's a type of bait that you can fish in, through, around, and over most forms of cover. It's also the type of bait that maintains an exact contour depth. It's a high percentage bait and probably catches more fish for more people more consistently than any other single bait on the market today. There's one. Boy. Big old, called a big old ditch bass right here. Open that old mouth. Oh, you got it too, didn't you? Get that. Nice. See ya. Let me show you something in this diagram that you might find interesting about worm hooks. As you can see in this piece of art, after the hook is set, the worm slides down the hook shaft, forming a half knot in the gap of the hook. Here it applies pressure to the hook point and pushes the point and barb through the worm into the mouth of the fish. Now, if the hook is too small, what's going to happen? The worm will clog in the gap, preventing it from hooking the fish. You know, there's a real advantage to using a long rod. Now, this rod's 6.5 feet long. At least a 6 to 6.5, and sometimes 7 is an ideal length. But in the action of the rod, you know, we've talked about this before. What I like in a rod is a rod with a fast tip and a lot of backbone. The length is going to get the bait out. The length is going to help you take up a lot of slack real quick, and that's going to improve your hook sets tremendously. The action of the rod with the fast tip and a strong butt section to the rod, this rod tip's got about 20% tip and about 80% backbone. What that tip's going to do is help you feel the bottom as you work it along. It's going to telegraph it through this heavy butt section of the rod where you can feel so much better with a fast action rod. It'll enable you to feel better. Plus, the fast action rod is going to enable you to get a much better hook set. When I say 20% tip, I'll hold this rod kind of up to the sky and I'll pull down on it. Well, you can see where the rod bends, just about right here at this guide, and the rest of that's backbone. You know, when you fish a plastic worm, it requires a tremendous amount of concentration. You've got to be able to concentrate on what that worm is doing at all times. You've got to feel what it's doing at all times. Oftentimes the strikes are extremely light. Other times it's just a little faint tap. Other times they will thump it pretty good. But it does require a tremendous amount of concentration. And with an extremely light slip sinker, it's going to require more concentration because you don't have as good a feel with that light slip sinker. But speaking of slip sinkers, I'm totally convinced that the lighter the slip sinker you can use, the more strikes you're going to get. Why? Okay? The purpose of a slip sinker is to get the bait out, get it to the bottom. It helps you feel the tight bottom as you work it along. But the lighter slip sinker, as I said, is going to be harder to feel, but it's going to give that worm much more of a natural-like action as it falls back to the bottom. There's one. Ooh, buddy. How you doing? Doing too good with that old hook in your face, are you?
Just under the surface.
Soft plastic jerkbaits burst on the fishing scene a few years back and provided some impressive results. But some anglers couldn't get the knack for fishing these erratic baits. Here's North American Fishing Club Bass Advisory Council member Joe Thomas with some jerkbait tips.
Basically what I'm going to do with the Sluggo is just allow it to sink about 2 feet and then work it just under the surface with little short twitches of my rod tip. Real erratic action is not really necessary. You need to kind of let the bait do its own thing. A Sluggo was probably one of the most revolutionary lures to tournament fishing a couple of years ago. It's won a lot of tournaments simply because it's one of those lures that just does its own thing. It'll never act the same way twice. You know, the soft plastic jerkbait is a lure that came on the scene about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's been one of those lures that really found its place in bass fishing. There's a lot of good brands on the market. The Sluggo was the original, the Kalin Hopalong. Basically, all it is is a soft plastic-bodied lure that imitates a dying or a struggling minnow, much like a long A bomber or a rattling rogue would. The unique thing about this lure is that while it looks like a jerkbait in the water, it fishes weedless just like a plastic worm. I fished this lure on 17-pound test line and an offset shank hook. This particular brand here is called an Owner. It's a heavy forged steel cone cut hook that has a little bit of weight to it, which is really critical in getting the Sluggo to act properly. Now, as far as rigging is concerned, basically we're going to Texas rig it just like you would a plastic worm. In the nose to the bend, bring it straight out the top part of the Sluggo just like that, slip it all the way up and over the offset shank. Now, that's the reason for using the offset shank, is it'll hold that Sluggo right there in place. Now, to rig the lower end, what you want to do is size it up to where the lure will hang straight. But instead of rigging just like you would when you Texas rig a worm and going in at a 45-degree angle, what I try and do is turn the bait 90 degrees, just like this, right here. Bring the hook straight through to where it comes out the underbelly. On a Sluggo, the underbelly is kind of concave, and that'll make it fairly weedless. However, if you're in real heavy vegetation, a lot of times that little hook point may pick up a piece of grass and foul your lure. Then you may want to lift it up and just catch that point right there and cover it in plastic. Now it'll be 100% weedless. But when the bass bites on it, boom, it'll pop right out of there and it's got him. That's the beauty of having that hook exposed. There are several colors that I like to use in a Sluggo. The first one I'm showing you here is called a Texas Shad. Basically, it has a silver back and a bluish gray belly. Looks a lot like a minnow in the clear water, and this is one of my favorites that I use a lot. The second one I use in a little bit more stained to dirty water, and it's called the Arkansas Shiner. Basically that same silver back, but it has more of an olive belly to it, a little bit more contrast for that dirty water. And then the third one is the one that I like to use under real low light conditions when the fish are on the beds or when you're wanting to see the lure in the water, particularly under low light conditions, is the bubblegum color. It works real well in real clear water, contrasts a lot. I usually use this lure when I'm fishing the bait right up on the surface. All three of these are real effective. I suggest you not have 100 different colors of Sluggo really, just the ones that you have the most confidence in. For me, these are my favorite colors. Line diameter on a Sluggo is also pretty critical. I tend to like 14 to 17 pound test most of the time. Much lighter than that and you don't get a real good hook set, much heavier and the bait tends to ride up out of the water and you won't get it to act properly. As far as rod is concerned, I usually use a 7-foot medium action rod. The same rod that you throw a Zara Spook or a Pop R on will work quite well. There are a couple of modifications that you can make to the Sluggo depending on what type of cover you're fishing. Occasionally you may want to get the lure down 2, 3, maybe even 4 feet under the water to get it down into the vegetation that you're fishing or the bushes that are under the water. In that situation, you may want to take a little piece of lead to weight the bait and get it down there. This is a piece of lead stripping that I've cut off with a pair of scissors. A lead roofing nail will work quite well, but basically what you want to do is insert it at a 45-degree angle and then go parallel to the Sluggo. Basically, it's going to lay right in this center position of the Sluggo, okay? Between the point of the hook and the shank is where it's going to lay. Another thing we can do is add a glass rattle to the tail of the Sluggo. What that actually does is just put out sound in the water. You know, sound is a critical thing with a bass. We talk about it a lot in our fishing. Bass can hear about as good underwater as a Doberman Pinscher can on land, so sound is really important. The glass rattle can be inserted right here in this tail section. Just slip it in at a 45-degree angle, just like this, and then let the plastic cover it right over. Just slide it right up in there. You may have to wet it or put a little fish formula on it to get it to slip in there nice and easy. There's one. Pulling pretty good. Now that one was down just a little bit deeper. He hit that Sluggo kind of like a worm strike. Just went up and boom, tapped it, dropped my rod and set the hook. Had the bait down about 2 foot in the water.
The Carolina rig is one of the most effective ways to fish soft plastics, but you can do little things to improve it.
Look.
Here's Karen Savick with a Carolina rigging tip.
There's one. That's a nice fish. That's a nice fish. Come on. Come on. Yeah, that. Come on. Whoa. Oh, it's a nice one. Nice one. Oh, yes. Oh, nice one. You know, I've only been fishing a Carolina rig a couple of years, and I've become a big fan. The reason why? Big fish. Nice one. The traditional Carolina rig is fished with soft plastic, usually a worm or a lizard. However, in the last couple of years, there's a new soft plastic called a French fry, and it really produces big bass. The Carolina rig is meant to be fished slow, real slow. And when you fish a French fry, you fish it even slower than that. I go to a Carolina rig when I'm looking for a slow presentation. I throw my Carolina rig as far out as I can heave it, and I let it drop to the bottom, reel in the slack, and slowly drag my lure. If there's a breeze blowing, you can even drift with it. The key to fishing a Carolina rig, whether you're using a lizard or a worm, but especially if you're using a French fry, is to fish it S-L-O-W for the North American fisherman. I'm Karen Savick.
When they first opened this was what, about 10 years ago? 8 years ago?
8 years ago, they first opened the stick marsh.
Pete Madsen is a well-known guide in Central Florida, where he specializes in tackling big bass on spinnerbaits. Under cold front conditions, Pete and NAFC Executive Director Steve Panaz turned to spinnerbaits to take big bass on Florida's famed stick marsh.
Cold fronts. I mean, this is your typical cold front morning, bluebird skies, the wind's blowing. It's cold out.
It's cold. It's not shorts weather, that's for sure.
Well, we'll see. I'm from Minnesota. Any sun is warm.
I'm gonna put a little stinger hook on it.
You are going to run one.
Yeah.
There's one, Pete. There's one.
All right. Good fish.
This is a thick fish.
That's
You know what?
Huge fish.
This fish hit and it missed the bait,
And come back.
and he came back when the bait was
Oh,
falling.
nice fish. Need help?
No, I'm fine.
Good
That fish grabbed the bait, and I missed the hook set, but as it was fluttering down, I grabbed it again. That's
yeah, they'll
aggressive.
come back, yep. Oh, nice fish.
Boy, he wanted that bait too. Come here. Ah. Oh, that's a heavy fish.
Yep,
I can't believe the weight.
thick.
That's a 5-pound fish.
Oh, yeah.
No question, that's a 5-pound fish. When fishing spinnerbaits, how you start your retrieve can affect your success. Pete and I found that by allowing our baits to flutter down until they hit the tops of the hydrilla, we triggered more fish than by starting our retrieve as soon as the baits hit the water.
Anytime you're in Florida, take every bite seriously. Been 2 hours since you had a bite, you want to take the next one seriously, because it could be a monster right in the middle of the day.
Wait, when he's got it.
Oh, big
Oh, that's
fish.
a good fish.
Big fish.
Let me get out of your way here.
He's coming right at the boat. He's
Oh, yeah.
jumping again.
Nice jump.
They're jumping like smallmouth this morning. They don't want to get
Here,
off of that bottom
I'll
there.
grab 'em
Great
for ya.
strong fish. Look at that. Double that rod over.
It's amazing. Oh, he's barely hooked. He's got him on the stinger
A
hook.
stinger hook. See that? Watch when he comes up. See that?
Yep, he got him on the stinger.
Nice fish.
If bass seem to be short striking your spinnerbait, you can add a stinger or trailer hook to improve your hooking percentages. When fishing open water, I like to run the hook point pointed down. However, in heavy cover, I go with the point facing up to prevent hang-ups. When do you decide to go into your tackle box and reach for a spinnerbait other than a crankbait or a jerkbait or something?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, in Florida here, it's such a limited amount of time that you can really catch a good, a lot of fish on a spinnerbait. And it's kind of like from about December through April. And that's it.
There's one, Pete.
Good, right at the boat.
Oh,
You see
man,
that?
he followed that thing up.
Yeah, he sure
See
did. He
that?
followed
Look at
clear to the lake.
I gotta
To the
get him out
boat
from under
there.
the motor.
Oh my God.
I can't
How
get
big
him
is
up.
he?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. Oh, it's not
Oh,
even that
nice
big.
fish, nice fish. But he's strong, isn't he? Them
Oh,
stick
it's
mark bass.
amazing.
Need some help with him?
No, I'll grab him. I'll grab him. You know, I went to a different spinnerbait. I went to one that's got dual.
Yeah,
It's called the blade clacker. It's actually got two willow leaf blades that
Nice
sit on
fish.
top of each other right there. That's maybe our best fish of the day so far, isn't it?
I'd say it's over 5.
Real
maybe.
nice fish.
Yeah, nice fish.
Got him right in the corner of the mouth.
Good job.
I can't believe how strong these fish are. That thing, he came up right side of the boat. I just saw the flash and the bait disappeared, and he went underneath the boat. I thought he was gonna get into the motor.
Yeah. I really thought he was a real huge fish.
He
But
looked
he's
bigger.
good.
He felt bigger than that.
Yeah.
That's about 5.
What's
huh?
that mark on his side there? You think you hit a tree there?
I don't know. Yeah,
Looks
he's-
fresh.
Yeah.
Maybe you banged him off a tree. Maybe that's where he come from.
There he goes. Thank you, sir. All right.
There he is, Steve. Oh my God, what a fish. It popped drag when I set the hook. Big
Have you
fish.
seen it yet?
This is really, no, I ain't seen her.
Here,
Boy,
let me help
she's
you.
strong.
Let me help you.
It's a big
Let me help
stick
you.
marsh bass. There she is.
Oh man.
Look at the size of her. She just,
Get him over
there she
here.
is, there she
Get
is.
him over here.
She's coming. Oh, there she goes.
Nice
Look
jump.
at that, look at that, look at that.
You got her. Look
What
at
a
that
fish.
fish, Pete.
Oh my God. I'll
What
tell
a
you what.
beautiful fish.
Boy,
Hold
what
it
a
up. I'm gonna
beautiful-
grab a picture,
Okay.
and we're gonna let that baby go. Wow. Nice fish. Paige is a North American fisherman. Why don't you let her go?
Okay, what a beautiful fish. I'll tell you what. That's a real stick marsh bass. She was really, really strong, Steve. She
She
fought.
was. I mean, yeah. She
Yeah. She came,
came
under
up
the boat.
kind of stunned there at the end,
Yeah.
but
Well, she gave me a heck of a fight up till then. Okay,
beauty.
baby, go ahead and go. Look at that.
Watching a spinnerbait move underwater, you probably question why it is one of the most effective bass baits ever invented. Then you look a bit closer. You notice how the blades flash like baitfish. You see the bait hesitate as it hits cover. You see the pulsating skirt. Then you understand the allure. Spinnerbaits are some of the most versatile lures in your tackle box. And by selecting various blade types or blade sizes, or going to lighter or heavier headweights, you have a bait that can catch bass shallow or deep, in clear water or stained, and in all types of cover. For more on fishing spinnerbaits, let's join Larry Nixon as he fishes in Arkansas.
Jump for me. I like it. Look at that thing hanging out there. Another one, just eating the whole thing, everything but the blades. You can tell when they're really feeding. I mean, he had it now. He wasn't about to let that thing get away from him. This color right here, that's a fire tiger. That's what they call fire tiger. It's got a little bit of clear, a little chartreuse, and a little orange. Anytime you got kind of it's not a real dark green, but it's kind of a greenish black water. To me, that's when I would like a touch of chartreuse and that little bit of orange in there. It's more of a brim colored, I guess, with a gold blade on the back of it. Extremely clear water now, I like a silver blade. Smallmouth and real dark, cloudy, rainy days. Anytime I think I'm trying to get a fish to come from a long ways to hit that spinnerbait, then I'm gonna throw a chartreuse blades or white. That blade selection is, I mean, I know it's complicated to some people, but if you keep it rather simple, gold and silver, gold in dark water, gold on cloudy days, silver in clear water, silver on bright windy days, and then, but you gotta have them chartreuse and white blades and even orange for other situations, like early spring, lots of crawfish. I don't never go out there without my bright blades. But still, gold and silver's my old standbys. And when in doubt, that's what I'm gonna throw. Extremely muddy water, boy, I love a good chartreuse blade. Oh, I love that pigtail on the back of a spinnerbait. That trailer right there is about as good as it gets when it comes to putting on the back of a spinnerbait. That little twin tail trailer, fish done changed the colors on it. They've eat it up so much. But that does give a spinnerbait some action. The only time I don't use a tail is extremely clear water, where I'm running it real fast. Most of the time, I think the fish they get a whole lot better bite of that hook. It's like they feel it going in and it's soft and they just love it. This is one of them areas that is terrific springtime spawning grounds. It's got scattered clumps of grass all over, but there's a lot of that sand. You see them sandy places, that white bottom? Boy, bass love that. That's a good feeding area.
Spinnerbaits are one of the best baits for covering water quickly and efficiently, shallow or deep. That's one of the reasons Bill Dance is such a big fan of this lure. Here's the North American fisherman, columnist, and noted pro sharing his favorite spinnerbait tactics for taking shallow water bass.
Today we'll be object fishing shallow cover in a depth of 12 to 18 inches of water. And we'll be doing it with a lure that's tailor-made for this type situation, the spinnerbait. It's an ideal bait when you have conditions like we have today. Extremely shallow, murky water that's laced with many different forms of wooded cover. That wooded cover consists of stumps, logs, treetops, and standing timber for the most part.
All right.
Hey, buddy. Don't get cute. Don't get cute. Boy, if I ever hung a 12-pound bass, I'd like to hook him like this. There we go. But I had you hooked 2 ways. Without question, the popularity of these lures is well deserved. These baits enable a fisherman to work many forms of cover without having to worry about hanging up every 6 to 8 feet during the retrieve. It's a type of bait that can be fished in, through, over, and around most types of cover. Yet, when visibility is extremely good, the largemouth will not normally follow a spinnerbait as far as they will follow, let's say, a plastic worm, a plug, or even a jig. Spinnerbaits, for the most part, are most effective in murky water on individual bass rather than groups of bass. There you go. Nice fish. Ooh, big one. There we go. Isn't that a pretty one? Let him boil that tree. But I'm trying my best to get that bait out of your face. Nice, real nice. See ya. Here's something you might find interesting and helpful the next time you're faced with murky, muddy conditions. And you're going to be amazed at just how shallow bass will be when the water turns yucky, off-colored, stained, murky, or muddy. And the key reason they move so shallow, well, it's real simple. They can see better. There's more light penetration in 1 foot of water than there is in 2 feet of water. And as we all know, bass are sight feeders. I once read where a writer said that what a spinnerbait is supposed to look like is anybody's guess. He also said that it looks like nothing a bass would normally consume, meaning it looks nothing like natural forage. Well, I'll tell you now, I disagree with that. You know, we all know a jig is a high percentage lure that resembles many different forms of forage. Swimming a white jig looks like a shad or a minnow. Now, a brown jig bounced on the bottom looks like a crawfish. If you place a spinner above the so-called looking jig, It looks like a shad or a minnow swimming under something that flashes and vibrates and helps hold it up, allowing it to swim at a certain depth level, depending upon your retrieve. Yep, I do feel like it looks like something in the food chain. I'll tell you, it sure looks more like living forage than some lures on the market that are supposed to represent something a bass usually eats.
One of the most important things to remember about fishing spinnerbaits is that a tuned bait catches more fish than one that is out of whack. Whether it's from ripping lips or ripping through grass, spinnerbaits get out of alignment during the course of a day. Here's top pro Larry Lazone with a quick and easy tuning tip.
Most of us grew up throwing a spinnerbait, and when it gets out of whack, whether you hit the log with it on a bad cast or a fish gets up and wraps line and bends the arm, we spend a lot of time trying to straighten the arm with the head of the bait. There's a much faster, simpler way to do it. If you'll watch, I'll show you. What you do is you bend the wire right as it comes out of the head at a pretty good angle like so. Now you've done that and the blade's right too close to the hook. So now you just come up here and bend the arm up. That spinnerbait will run true. You don't have to worry about whether it's in line, not in line. If you'll just bend it up more of a 45 degree, then you will raise the arm, bend it up to clear the blades, it'll run true. If you'll try that method of tuning your spinnerbait, you'll find it's fast and easy, and it will save you a lot of aggravation.
Jigs used to be considered wintertime baits by many southern anglers, but their year-round effectiveness is now widely accepted. Jigs get right in the face of bass, even in heavy cover, and coax strikes from even neutral fish. While jigs as a whole haven't changed much over the years, the football or roller jig head design is now capturing the attention of anglers across the country after western bass anglers let out their little secret.
There we go.
One of the best fans of the new football head design is Midwesterner Jim Moyna, who used the jig to win $200,000 in a recent FLW tournament, the largest purse in the history of tournament bass fishing. Here's Jim detailing his technique for fishing these deadly baits.
The head shape is everything for this type of fishing. And it's specially designed to fish rocks, gravel, and sand. The line tie here is recessed into the head. Other jigs where the line tie is, say, off the front, like a lot of weed jigs, they have it right off the front and they have more of a pointed head. You don't have near the feel as you would with this jig. And that feel is really important when you're trying to find these types of rocky, sandy areas that we're going to be fishing today. The head shape is everything. You think bass, you think, okay, I got to find some cover to catch these bass in. Well, where I'm fishing, there really isn't any, classic type cover. I guess, you may, if you got big enough rocks and boulders, well, that's the cover, but these are just flat gravel areas with, rocks that maybe are the size of your fist. In this spot, the good rock is, it's real crisp, clean, a crisp, clean feeling every time I move that jig and it bumps on it. It's just a real crisp, clean deal. When I'm not quite in that, when I'm off in the sand or slightly in the silt areas, then it's more of a padded feel. And it's not really quite, it's really hard to explain. Once you do it, you know exactly what I mean. I am in the good stuff right now. So let's, there's one right there. There we go. Get that spot marked. All right. Good fish. There we go. Jeez. All right. There's a good old rock bass, rock pile bass. Man, when they're on it, it's hard to beat them. Now, I fully anticipate to catch a few more of these. This is the first one out of that school.
Roller jigs are so effective not only because of the way they move on the bottom, but how they react to objects like rocks. These baits move with a subtle side-to-side action, then dart off rocks, perfectly mimicking one of the bass's favorite forage items, the crayfish.
I find a lot of rock in lakes, up on, just up on a shallow flat with no break by it. Those types of rock piles, I've caught bass on them, but for some reason the real big mamas just aren't attracted to it. They need that accessibility to a deep water. And the break, you know, I guess when I say deep water, I just mean a quick breakdown that goes down maybe 5 or 10 feet quick, and it may flatten out right there, or it may just plunge into the abyss. Boy, that's really good rock there. In fact, okay, I think we got one right there. Yep. There she is. There she is. Yeah, that's a good one. Boy, I love this roller jigging. Come on, girl. Oh, there she goes. Come on up here. You don't want to come up here, do you? There we go. Oh, all right. Nice fish. The rocks and roller jig, they're definitely a marriage made in heaven for me.
Bill Dance often turns to a jig when fishing the deep edge of hydrilla for summertime bass. Let's join Bill.
You know, the jig and pork combination is without question the type of lure with a big reputation. One that not only builds tremendous confidence, but comes with a good promise of catching nice-sized fish. For years, many anglers have thought that the jig and pork combinations were wintertime lures. Well, let me tell you, this is not the case. This combination is a highly productive lure 12 months of the year. However, I will admit, I do much better with it when the water temperature is below 70 degrees. Coming up. Yes. Going out that way. What? Wrong fish. Go ahead and go way down in that clear water. Woo! Come here, Buster. Come here, Buster. There we go. What I'm fishing with here is a 3/8 ounce rattling Strike King jig, and I've got it tipped with a little 2.5 inch bow eel leech. Extends the bait way back, gives it a long streamlined profile type look. Although many jigs are fished only during the winter, as stated previously, I've had a great deal of success using them the other 8 months of the year in all parts of the country. If you try jigs enough, I know you will too. Let me mention this to you. When fishing a jig, it's important to stay in contact with it at all times. To fish it effectively, you've got to know what it's doing, from the time it leaves your rod tip until it returns. Feel is everything. When I know what this jig is doing, I know when to move it, when to stop it, when to move it a little bit faster, or when to work it even slower. If I'm not feeling it, I absolutely cannot work it properly. It's smart to always keep an assortment of different sized jigs in your tackle box, ranging from the 1/8 ounce size up to at least the 1/2 ounce size. If the bass are aggressive during the day and the strikes are coming fast, a 1/2 ounce size can produce extremely well. But when the action slows down, you'll need to size down. Doing this might really surprise you. You'll be catching bass during times that would otherwise be unproductive. Speaking of jig sizes a minute ago, regardless of the jig that you use, make sure to work the lure with the rod, not the reel. When using the reel to move the bait, the rod position is generally more horizontal. As the jig falls off a piece of cover, not enough slack line exists to allow the bait to drop vertically. Instead, it glides towards you and away from the target. Even if the distance is only a matter of a foot or two, it can cause the lure to swim completely out of the strike zone, and when bass are in a non-aggressive mood, this could be critical. However, when the rod is used to move the jig, the higher position lets you drop the rod as the bait climbs over something, keeping it close to the object. Okay. Oh, there's a hit right there. way out there. Here he comes. I can see him. He was up on top of it. Getting way down in the clear water. Come here. You know, fishing this bait in that vegetation, that bait will go down and you'll start to pull it and it'll slip on that hydrilla. Let me tell you something about that. You know, many times you won't feel a strike when a bass hits a jig. All you'll feel is sluggish weight on the other end. But what you can do with just a slight pull of your rod tip, what that'll do, that'll tell you there's something alive that's got it. And when this happens, what you want to do is just reel down, set that hook hard, take up the slack naturally, set the hook hard, and set your rod in an upward motion, and hang on. You know, a little bit ago I was talking about wanting this jig to vertically drop. What I try to do is when I cast the jig out, and once it hits the water, as I said, I want it to vertically drop, not swing back toward me. Now, I'll admit, it's much easier to do this with a spinning rod than it is a bait casting outfit. But when I'm using bait casting tackle like I am today, what I do, when the jig hits the water, I barely lift my thumb off of the spool and raise the rod tip. This prevents the pendulum effect and it helps the jig fall straight down. But as the jig falls, I'll lower my rod tip, placing my thumb loosely on the free spool so that I can maintain good, contact with the lure, and I can detect a strike if he hits it on the fall. I've got a hydrilla bank right here. It's probably 5 to 6 feet of the surface, and it comes out and it breaks straight off. And those fish are right on the vertical edge of that hydrilla bank. Whoa, buddy. Get him down in that clear water. Little butterball. Little butterball.
Oh, there's one.
Like hydrilla in the south, milfoil can fill the entire water column with seemingly impenetrable cover. As Minnesota pro Paul Newman explains, the best bait for targeting bass holding in these aquatic jungles is the jig. Here's Paul with more.
What I'm working here is a little spot on the spot. It's a big milfoil flat. It's got a little depression in it. And I can usually just about come up on this little depression once I get lined up on it and really catch one. Oh, there's one. Oh, he's in the foil. Oh, he's buried. A lot of times when the fish covered in weeds, it really helps to get the fish in the boat. It really keeps them inactive. They don't fight as much. That's what we're fishing here, deep mats of this milfoil here. These fish love it. Good fish.
Milfoil appears to grow right to the bottom, but there is an opening beneath the grass where bass like to hold. Heavy jigs, weighing as much as an ounce, will help you reach these fish by breaking through the vegetation canopy.
I really try to match the bait that's down there with the color of my jig. I start out with a camo jig. It matches kind of a green crawdad that's down there. I've switched to white here. White's not really, you probably wouldn't think of it as a natural color. It doesn't really simulate a craw at all. It more simulates a shiner, a cisco, a bait fish rather than a crawdad or something to that nature that the bass are going to be foraging on. When I'm fishing these weeds, what I like to try to find is I like to try to find a harder bottom underneath these weeds. Maybe gravel, maybe rocks, something to that effect that will really, those fish will really like to congregate on. Oh, there's one. Oh, under the boat. Come on. There he is. A little feisty. There we go, another nice fish. This is a pretty typical jig fish for this lake I'm fishing here. This is a good 3.5, 4 pound fish. Good fish. What we're gonna do now, we've already caught a fish here. I think what we'll go do is we'll try a little different technique that I'd like to show you guys. I think we'll go fish a jigworm in a different spot. Maybe we'll try some inside turns on the outside of the weeds. What I'm going to be using, I'm going to switch to something a little bit lighter now. The spinning irons. These are little jigworm is what we call it. Little jig head with an exposed hook this time, something that's not weedless. There's 7-inch power worm on there. I'm not using heavy line anymore. I've gone down to 8-pound test monofilament. This is more of a finesse tactic. Real slow presentation, real quiet. You try not to, you're not going to be horsing the fish out of any weeds now, so you really want to keep the bait slow and quiet. This is something some people might not have seen before. This is what I like to call a jigworm. All it is a lead-headed jig, shaped like a mushroom, the head is. It's got an exposed hook on it. And all you really do is thread a worm up onto it, keep the hook on the outside, and you can fish anything from a 4-inch worm all the way up to a 7-inch worm, or maybe even a 10-inch worm, depending upon how aggressive the fish are that day. I usually generally stick with a 7-inch power worm I like to fish. A lot of times when you're fishing a jigworm, the fish is going to hit it on the initial fall. You're just going to let it fall for a long time. You'll pick it up right when the bait's dropping down. Oh, there's a tick. Let's see if that's a fish. Yeah, there's one. Oh, he's swimming up with it. Where is he? Under the boat. There he is. Nice fish. Oh, yeah. Oh, back here. He doesn't want to be caught. There's a nice jigworm fish. Really got him bedded right in the snout. This fish right here took the bait on the very first fall of the bait. 9 times out of 10 when I'm fishing a jigworm, that's when I'll get the bite. I'll usually throw it out, let the bait fall, pick it up 1 or 2 times after that first fall. If I don't get a bite, I'll reel it in and cast again. That's when you're going to find out when you get most of your bites. When I do get a fish, I'll stick to it, and I'll cast back at it in that same spot a couple times. If you catch one fish in one spot, you might find more. Generally, when you're fishing outside the weed line, you can find big concentrations, big schools of fish.
Whether you're in the thick of it with a heavy jig or on the edges finessing a jigworm, don't overlook these deep water weed beds for post-spawn action. Spinnerbaits, soft plastics, and jigs, 3 baits that will take bass under a variety of conditions. And with the tips covered here, I think you'll find they're even more productive for you. I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Complete Angler video series. What's more is I hope to see you again real soon. Hey, thanks for joining us.